The story of gold is not just about wealth, it is about obsession, conquest, and the birth of global power. When ships from Spain and Portugal crossed the Atlantic in the 15th century, they carried dreams gilded in sunlight. What they found changed the world forever. This is the tale of how gold from the Americas reshaped Europe, building empires, fueling wars, and rewriting the destiny of nations. Before we begin, hit like, subscribe, and step into the age when greed and glory were one and the same. Welcome to Finance History. The first European explorers did not just seek new lands, they sought gold. To them, the New World was not a discovery, it was an open vault. In the Caribbean, whispers of golden cities lured thousands. From the Aztec temples to the Incan mines, gold became the lifeblood of conquest. But behind every shining coin lay human suffering and a continent drained of life. What began as exploration quickly turned into industrial-scale extraction. This is the hidden economy of empire, where blood became currency, and gold became the soul of European power. As the Spanish crown financed voyages, gold became both promise and debt. Monarchs borrowed from Italian and German bankers, gambling on the wealth of unknown lands. Each voyage carried the hopes of financiers in Antwerp and Genoa, who bet their fortunes on the success of conquistadors. The result was the creation of the first global financial network, a system built on stolen metal, enslaved labor, and royal ambition. Stay tuned, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories revealing how gold's glitter hid centuries of exploitation. When Hernán Cortés marched into Tenochtitlan, he did not just destroy an empire, he liquidated one. The Aztec temples were stripped of their gold, melted into bars, and shipped across the sea. Spain's ships, laden with treasure, became the arteries of a new global economy. But every ounce of gold extracted fueled not prosperity, but inflation, greed, and corruption back home. Europe's wealth was swelling, yet its soul was collapsing. Gold had become both the seed and the sickness of empire. The Incan Empire fell not to superior weapons, but to financial ambition. Francisco Pizarro's small band of men held Emperor Atahualpa ransom for a room filled with gold. That gold, melted, stamped, and taxed, became the foundation of Spain's treasury. The Spanish monarchs, now richer than any before, transformed Madrid into the world's capital of opulence. Yet the influx of American gold also poisoned Europe's economy. Prices soared, coins lost value, and poverty deepened. Gold had made Spain powerful, and unstable. As galleons crossed the Atlantic, Europe's markets transformed. Antwerp became the beating heart of global trade. Its banks financed voyages, its merchants traded silver and gold like grain. The influx of bullion changed everything. Gold no longer symbolized divine favor, it was power itself. Monarchs used it to wage wars, build navies, and silence rivals. But in the shadows, a new class emerged, the banker. These silent financiers would soon hold more power than kings. The Fugger family of Augsburg became Europe's secret bankers. While conquistadors fought with swords, the Fuggers fought with loans. They financed Spanish kings, controlled mining rights in Europe, and quietly shaped policies from behind velvet curtains. The gold that arrived from Peru and Mexico passed through their ledgers before reaching royal hands. The empire of gold was not ruled by crowns, it was ruled by contracts. The Fuggers understood one eternal truth. Gold may come from the Americas, but control lies in who lends it. Spain's dominance created envy. England, France, and the Dutch Republic watched as Spanish ships returned heavy with bullion. But where Spain hoarded gold, others sought to use it. The Dutch built trading companies, backed by shares and bonds. England learned to finance wars through credit. A quiet revolution had begun, one that would transfer power from monarchs to markets. Gold had built the empires of conquest, credit would build the empires of capitalism. In Seville, the Casa de Contratación managed every ounce of gold and silver entering Spain. Bureaucrats tracked each shipment, taxing and recording, ensuring the crown received its royal fifth. The ports overflowed with treasure, and yet, Spain was drowning in debt. Wars with England, rebellion in the Netherlands, and lavish spending devoured fortunes faster than ships could deliver them. The irony was painful. The richest empire in the world could not pay its bills. Meanwhile, across the Channel, England studied Spain's mistakes. Rather than chase raw gold, it focused on trade, banking, and naval power. London merchants invested in the East India Company, using borrowed capital to generate real wealth. Gold from the Americas built palaces in Madrid, but it built systems in London. The British understood something deeper. Gold is finite, but credit is infinite. And from this realization, modern finance was born. The gold that once symbolized divine favor became a tool of political manipulation. Monarchs bribed allies, funded crusades, and purchased loyalty. Yet for every palace built, villages starved. Europe's hunger for gold drove colonial expansion across Africa and Asia. The world had entered the age of global extraction, where continents were measured not by culture or faith, but by what they could yield in metal and manpower. By the 17th century, Spanish galleons sailed in armed convoys, hunted by pirates and rival nations. The seas became bloodied highways of treasure. Men like Sir Francis Drake raided Spanish ships, stealing back gold for England's crown. Every coin stolen was both profit and propaganda, a blow against Spain's dominance. This was not just war, it was economics with cannon fire. The massive flow of gold caused what historians call the price revolution. Inflation swept through Europe as too much metal chased too few goods. The value of labor fell, the cost of living soared, and peasants suffered. Gold, meant to enrich, instead destabilized. Economists today still trace Europe's first major financial crisis back to this gilded flood. The empires had gained the world, and lost their balance. Yet for the Catholic Church, gold meant something sacred. Vast cathedrals rose, their altars gilded in American metal. The Church justified conquest as divine will, calling it the civilizing mission. But beneath the sermons, gold financed indulgences, art, and wars against heresy. Faith and finance were intertwined. The same gold that built cathedrals also built cannons. Heaven, it seemed, came with a price. In the colonies, indigenous populations were decimated. Enslaved people mined under brutal conditions in Potosí and Zacatecas. The mountain of Potosí alone produced so much silver and gold that it financed the Spanish crown for centuries. But at a human cost so immense, it remains one of history's greatest tragedies. The blood of millions turned into coins that built Europe's palaces. The 18th century saw Europe's shift from gold to commerce. The bullion had fueled the start, but now trade dominated. Sugar, cotton, and tobacco, all financed by gold wealth, expanded Europe's reach. The economies of empire evolved from extraction to production. Still, gold remained the psychological anchor of value. Even as paper money and banks rose, every note whispered back to the metal born from the Americas. In France, gold financed grandeur. Louis XIV built Versailles with the confidence of a man whose treasury overflowed. But as wars and luxury drained the state, France's gold vanished. When the revolution came, the same metal that had built palaces funded the guillotine. Wealth extracted from others eventually devoured its masters, a cycle history would repeat endlessly. The 19th century saw a new chapter. Britain, now the global banker, no longer mined gold, it controlled it. The Bank of England set global standards, stabilizing currencies around the gold standard. The irony was poetic. Spain had discovered gold, but Britain made it rule the world. What began with conquest ended with control. The empire of credit replaced the empire of conquest, but both were built on the same shimmering metal. In Latin America, independence movements broke chains but not systems. European demand for resources continued. Gold still flowed out, but now through private corporations instead of crowns. The old pattern endured: extraction, export, enrichment elsewhere. The economic scars of that era remain visible today, in unequal trade and dependency born from those first shipments of gold. Historians call this the birth of global capitalism. The gold rush of the 1500s created markets, banks, and systems that still define modern economies. The greed of empires gave rise to the structure of finance, interest, inflation, credit, and speculation. Gold was no longer just a metal. It was a metaphor for power, for the eternal human desire to own, control, and dominate. The story of gold is not a triumph, it's a warning. The same wealth that built Europe's greatness also sowed its conflicts. Revolutions, bankruptcies, and wars followed the golden trail. Behind every shimmering coin lies the echo of conquest and the silence of those who suffered to create it. History teaches that every empire built on greed eventually collapses under its own weight. Yet, the allure of gold persists. Central banks still hoard it. Investors still worship it. Even in our digital age, gold remains the ultimate symbol of security. It is history's most enduring illusion, that possession equals power. But the truth, as always, is more complex. Today, nations no longer send galleons across oceans, but they still compete for resources with the same hunger. Oil, data, lithium, each is the new gold of our time. The methods have changed, the motives have not. The legacy of conquest lives on in trade wars, economic sanctions, and global inequality. In museums across Europe, golden artifacts from the Americas sit behind glass, relics of ambition disguised as discovery. They remind us that progress often walks hand in hand with plunder. The civilizations that lost their treasures also lost their place in history's narrative, their voices drowned in gold. But history is rediscovering them. Scholars now trace how indigenous economies thrived before conquest, sustainable, communal, and rich in balance rather than greed. The rediscovery of those systems challenges the myth that Europe, civilized, the New World. In truth, it was Europe that lost its moral compass in gold's reflection. As global markets fluctuate and currencies crumble, we return to gold as a safe haven. It's poetic. The same metal that destroyed empires now promises safety. Humanity never truly escaped its golden addiction. The question remains, will we ever learn from history, or are we doomed to repeat it in new forms? The wealth that flowed into Europe built not just empires, but ideas, capitalism, banking, colonialism. Each institution we know today carries traces of that first golden age. Every modern fortune still echoes with the hammering of colonial mints, the cries from mines, and the rustle of galleon sails in the wind. Yet amid the darkness, there were lessons. The failure of Spain, the rise of Britain, the evolution of banking, all showed that wealth alone is not power. Structure, innovation, and restraint matter more than abundance. Gold may have built empires, but wisdom sustains them. So as we look back, the story of America's gold is not about metal, it's about meaning. It tells us what humanity becomes when desire outpaces morality. It's a mirror to our greed, our ambition, and our endless search for value, both economic and moral. This is the legacy of gold, the currency that shaped the modern world. From the mines of Potosí to the vaults of London, from Aztec temples to European banks, gold has defined human civilization. But it also reminds us that every fortune has a cost. If you found this story enlightening, like, subscribe, and join us for more untold tales of how money built and broke our world.